That was crazy. Okay. Hello. Let's try that again. Welcome
Hello.
to, yeah, and you can hear me too, right, Terry?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to Around Town TV, everyone. My name is Carla Berlin, Minnesota's lifestyle and business experts. We've been bringing you the best kept secrets, businesses, organizations, and people since 2003. We are the Twin Cities' longest airing television community showcase. November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. And one thing that I didn't know until I met Terry is that lung cancer is the deadliest cancer. Amongst all the cancers, it is the leading cause of death amongst the cancers. And in November, because it's Lung Cancer Awareness Month, I am so thrilled to have with us the executive director of A Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation. Please welcome Teri Cannon. And Terry, thank you. I know you're coming off a gala and exhausted. Thank you for taking time to be here.
Hi, Carla. Thank you for having me. Of course, November is just a whirlwind, and we're so excited that you are having us on the show to talk about Lung Cancer Awareness Month, because it is such an important time of year to spread awareness about, like you said, the deadliest cancer in America.
Well, and thank you again for having me as a co-MC for your gala with Alexa Score. She is fantastic. It was a fantastic night, and I was just honored. So thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
no, thank you. It was a fun night. We had more than 250 people in the room raising money for lung cancer, and it was really fun and important mission.
Well, and this is an important mission, and that wasn't the only night that we can raise money. And for those of you tuning in and being educated or learning more or interested, we'll talk a little bit more. But above this video is a link. You can go straight to the link. If you're someone like, hey, I just want to donate and jump off the show, you can do that. But for those of you tuning in that are interested, let's talk about Terry. For those, a lot of people know you from the nonprofit sector,
Mhm.
but many people may not be aware of what a Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation is and does. Could you give us just a little bit of an overview?
Sure. So our organization started very grassroots by a group of 5 patients and their family members and their nurse back in 2007, when they looked around and said, wait a minute, we're diagnosed with lung cancer. It's the deadliest cancer there is. And we're not feeling the same kind of support as some other people diagnosed with cancer who go home maybe with a meal train and a GoFundMe page and a warm blanket and a sweatshirt and all of the swag and feeling loved and supported. And there was a lot of stigma. There continues to be a lot of stigma around lung cancer. And the resources weren't very great. And they felt like when they were diagnosed, they were handed a brochure and told good luck. And so they wanted to change that. And so they rallied and started the first ever lung cancer walk and run in the Twin Cities. And today we are a Breath of Hope. They formed a 501c3 a couple of years later, and we continue to be that source of support for newly diagnosed patients and for all lung cancer patients.
Well, and go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, because lung cancer, because it is the deadliest cancer, we want to be spreading awareness that there are some ways to detect it early when it is more easier to treat.
Well, and that's one of the things where I was going to lead with. Many people know that I lost both my parents in the past few years, and I lost my father to lung cancer. And by the time we found it, it was lung, lymph node, and brain cancer. So, speaking to what you were just saying, they never, women go in and get mammograms for breast cancer, but we don't go in and get any screenings for lung cancer. Let's talk about early detection and screening.
Sure. So there is screening for lung cancer, but you need to be eligible. So one of the things that nonprofits need to be working on is expanding the eligibility, because right now you need to be between ages 50 and 80 and have a smoking history. And so it's not as easy as just saying I'm a woman over 40 and I need a mammogram, or I'm a person over 50 and I need a colonoscopy. There's a little bit more, there's more barriers to getting a lung cancer screening. However, if we could even raise the bar on getting the people who are eligible screened, we know that we could save more lives, because less than 10% of eligible people in Minnesota are being screened. So anyone who is hearing this, who is between 50 and 80 and has a lung or has a smoking history, should be asking for that annual low dose CT scan. So there is a way to detect lung cancer early if they do go in and get that scan.
See, and I wish we had known that. And I've shared this story online before. For those of you who know, there is a kind of a sweet story. When I was 12 and my dad was 36, one Christmas we decided to give non-monetary Christmas presents, and I asked my dad to quit smoking, and he did. And he never touched a cigarette, cigar, anything after that. But 40, so then we just in our minds, we thought, oh, he's good because he quit so
Right.
young. Well, 40 years later, it popped up just by chance because he was brought into the emergency room, and they thought maybe he had pneumonia or something, and did that and thought, well, we see something, and he had no symptoms. So someone like him could have, at the age of 50, and he died at 76, less than a year later, could have said, hey, I want a screening, right? That would be something he would have asked his doctor, and it would have been covered usually under Medicare.
Absolutely. So it would have been covered, and you shouldn't have to ask your doctor. It should be part of standard practice that your healthcare provider, when you are going in for your annual visits, you should be asked if you have a smoking history. So if you aren't being asked, be a self-advocate and ask, or let your physician know that you did smoke in the past. And like you said, your dad had quit smoking, so he thought he was beyond that, but he had been a smoker. And so there's a little bit more to that level of not just any smoking history. They call it a 20-pack history, and it gets to be a little confusing. And I think this is why sometimes it's missed. It's either 10 years of smoking 2 packs a day, or 20 years of smoking 1 pack a day. So a 20-pack history. So there's a little math that goes into it. And sometimes it's just overlooked, especially somebody like your dad who had quit smoking and didn't even think to bring it up.
Well, and I think he said he started at age 15, even though he was an athlete, and Marlboro
that's
Red
20
Hot.
years.
Yeah, 20 years. And I think he was he seemed like he was a chain smoker, but after work when he would get home and sit in his chair. But yeah, so that's interesting. And I know a lot of people are shamed with that, but it's like any other cancer or anything we're doing in the environment that's causing it. It's not anything to be ashamed of. We just have to be advocates. And many of that older generation, especially of my dad's age group, were of the impression, well, he wasn't, but at first they were, when they first, my mom first became ill. Where I'm going with this is, whatever a doctor says is what is. Don't ask questions. Where then they learned to have like a stack of questions when they would go in and be their own advocates. And he would have, if he had known he could, he totally would have asked for a screening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the reason we have Lung Cancer Awareness Month, is to spread awareness about that you can ask for a low dose CT scan to check, because unfortunately, by the time most people start exhibiting symptoms, that means that the cancer has probably progressed. So the best way to survive a lung cancer diagnosis is to discover it early, before there are symptoms. So to ask for that screening before you have the symptoms is key. The earlier you can be diagnosed in stage 1, 2, even 3, the higher the likelihood of survival. However, because of so many new treatments, I want to say we're up over 36 new targeted therapies for lung cancer. Even people who are diagnosed at stage 4 have a high likelihood of survival because of the new treatments. So unfortunately, again, we're back to the stigma surrounding lung cancer.
Mhm.
And nihilism, people who have been smokers will say, oh, well, I was diagnosed with lung cancer. I'm a smoker. I deserve it. Nobody deserves lung cancer. And even when you're diagnosed at stage 4, don't give up. Ask for biomarker testing. And there could be, if you have a target, a mutation, you
Mhm.
could have a targeted therapy that could
Mhm.
save your life.
Absolutely. And for those, when you say biomarker testing, for those who aren't familiar with that, what is that?
Sure. So that's one of the things that when you said screening is covered, and I stumbled a little bit, I was thinking, well, screening has been covered for eligible people 50 to 80 with a smoking history. It's the biomarker testing that just became, it's now required to be covered as of January 1st, 2025 in the state of Minnesota. Medicaid and Medicare now have to cover biomarker testing. And so what that means is, let's say you go in and you get your screening and or you go in with symptoms and you're diagnosed with lung cancer, you should be requesting a biomarker test, which means sending your either tissue biopsy or a liquid biopsy, so that's a blood draw,
Mhm.
to be tested to see if you have a biomarker, which means a mutation that could identify a specific target
Mhm.
that has a treatment for it. Now, not every person has a target.
Mhm.
And one of the first targets that was discovered was, it's called EGFR. It's a specific mutation in people who have lung cancer. And there's many therapies that can now treat EGFR. As science has progressed, there are many, many, many more targets that could be treated and
Mm.
many more treatments available. So the key is asking for that biomarker test, because if you start on the wrong therapy before you learn that you have a biomarker,
Mhm.
you could go down a path that you can't reverse, and
Interesting.
you might not be able to be treated depending on what you started first.
Well, and
So
yeah, one of the things I think, just thinking of my own experience with my father, I remember where we were. We're at my mom's chemotherapy for her metastatic breast bone cancer when the doctor called his cell phone, which was he was really just 2 floors up, to say, "Carl, you have widely metastatic um, lung cancer." And that was before we knew he had brain cancer. He, I think, did do a biomarker testing because he had Keytruda and it was
mm,
working on, even though he had widely metastatic, to your point of, even if it's progressed, his was treatable.
mhm,
So they treated that, and they also were able to treat his lymph node and even his brain. He did the stereotactic radiosurgery and was in remission, but because of his type 2 diabetes and because of COVID, and he couldn't be seen in person, that is really ultimately what caused his death. His cancer was still treatable because of the biomarker testing.
yeah. So science has come a long ways. We've got lots of ways to detect the cancer and treat the cancer now. So we want to spread awareness about the importance of talking to your provider about the testing.
Great advice. One thing that we've heard of over the years, but I didn't realize to the extent, was radon exposure. Let's touch on that and the importance of being aware of this.
Sure. So radon is often overlooked because even though smoking is the number one cause of lung cancer, radon is the number two cause of lung cancer. And radon is really high in Minnesota and different pockets around the United States, but specifically in Minnesota. It's
Mm.
often overlooked because it's naturally occurring. It seeps up through the soil. And so people, especially if you have like a lower level in your home and maybe you spend a lot of time in a basement bedroom or a basement family room, and that's where the radon is seeping into your house, you could have a lot of exposure over time that is causing lung cancer. So it's really important that if no matter where you live. And I think now, even when you are moving into a new home, one of the requirements is to have radon testing. So people might discover it when they're moving. But if you've been in your house for a long time, you might not know it because it's relatively new that testing is required. But you can reach out to the Minnesota Department of Health at mn.gov/radon, or contact your local public health department and get a radon testing kit. Very inexpensively. You can even get them at hardware stores. But you just hang up this testing kit in your basement, in the lowest level of your home.
Okay.
And leave it there for a couple of days, and then seal it up and send it in to be tested. And you'll get the results online that'll tell you what the radon levels are in your home. And if they're above a certain point that's not advised, then you might be suggested to have mitigation in your home to add some venting that will help move the radon outside of your house and back into the air where it's not as deadly. So really highly recommend that people get radon testing. Especially, I mean, if you're in Minnesota, Iowa has one of the highest rates of radon. There's other pockets around the country that have high rates of radon. And you can find that on a Google radon in the United States, and there's maps that show where the highest pockets are. But that's the number one cause of lung cancer in non-smokers.
Wow. That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, when you look at so many people that are being diagnosed now in their 40s, or younger than 50, younger than when you're even eligible for the low-dose CT scanning, much of the time it's caused by things like radon. So it's important to look for those, to test for that.
I have a dear friend back in 2009 who lost her husband. He was 30 and she was 29, and he wasn't a smoker, and they don't think radon. What they think is he did a lot of lawn care, of fertilization when he was in college, where he would do the spraying and didn't wear a mask or anything. And they thought perhaps that contributed to it as well.
Yeah, of course, your lungs are the filter for your entire body. So anything in the air that you breathe in could be causing lung cancer, whether it's, fires, wildfires, anything that you're breathing
Cleaning
in.
solutions.
Cleaning solutions, chemicals.
Mhm.
Yes, anything that you're breathing goes straight through your body's filters.
Wow, that's amazing. One of the other, we're going through kind of how we can take action, and this November is the education advocacy piece, which I know a Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation is that. I mean, that's basically one of the biggest key pieces of what you do. But let's talk about what that part of it for taking action in November.
Sure. So we've got a whole web page on our site set up specifically to help people understand screening and testing and radon, and just how to be a good advocate. And you can find that at abreathofhope.org/belungsmart. And our campaign for Lung Cancer Awareness Month is Be Lung Smart. Because there's just so much that people overlook when it comes to lung cancer, because it's not as, I don't know why it's not as known, because it is the deadliest cancer, but there's just so much that we can do to detect it early and save lives.
Well, and when I had a little note written about Be Lung Smart, and so thank you for explaining that. For those of you wanting to click on the website, it's actually above this video. So if you go there, then you can do the /Be Lung Smart, and it'll take you right there. But so easy access to get to their website from this video. Anything else that you wanted to cover under that educational advocacy piece?
Well, like I said, with the biomarker testing, if you are diagnosed with lung cancer, no matter what stage it is, if you are diagnosed stage 1B or higher, you should be getting biomarker tested. If you are diagnosed lung cancer stage 1, 2, 3, there is a chance that your doctor might say, we only do biomarker testing at stage 4. That's not true anymore, especially since January 1st, 2025. It's now required to be covered, and it should be happening. In fact, I heard one oncologist go so far as to say, if you're not being tested at stage 1B or higher, it's like malpractice. It's bad.
Good.
Like, you should be
Good.
tested. It is now more than highly recommended. It really is a requirement. It just doesn't always happen. So the more we can do, the more we can do to spread awareness and make sure that patients are their own self-advocates, the better.
Let's talk about some of the Minnesota specific highlights. I know one of the things I learned the other night is Minnesota has one of the highest on a national average survival rates. So I knew that was something I learned the other evening. But what else? We're kind of leaders here in Minnesota.
You know, there's so many things that we're leaders in Minnesota. We're Minnesota proud. We've got a great healthcare system in the state of Minnesota. And A Breath of Hope has been around almost 20 years. And so this organization has been spreading awareness for a long time and has been out in the communities and telling people about the importance of screening. And I truly believe that it's because of A Breath of Hope that we are truly detecting cancer earlier, lung cancer earlier, and training people to be advocates. And because we live in a state that has wonderful health care, we've got places like Mayo Clinic and the University of Minnesota and Alina and so many fabulous hospital systems throughout the state that they are tapped into clinical trials and the best treatments and understand the importance of biomarker testing. And so I do think that that is saving lives and it sets us apart. So nationally, so the American Lung Association does tracking on the statistics. And just last week, they put out their new statewide statistics. And it's now nationally, lung cancer survivor, 5-year survivorship is at 27%. And in Minnesota, it's at 33.7%. So we are higher than the national average. And again, I think it's because of 20 years of promoting screening and because of our amazing healthcare and the treatments that are happening here. We have a really extensive network of clinical trials throughout Minnesota. The University of Minnesota has a whole system that tracks clinical trials throughout the state. And of course, Mayo Clinic is right here. And getting into some of these clinical trials is key. Sometimes people are confused about clinical trials. They might think that, sometimes there's a misperception that you could be on a placebo and that's never going to happen in the cancer space. You're going to have treatment no matter what, but sometimes the only way to get the cutting edge newest treatments for a particular biomarker, especially if you've been tested and you find that you have a biomarker that is not common, like the EGFR marker, maybe you've got something that's less common. The only way that you might be able to get onto a drug therapy for that biomarker is through a clinical trial because it just hasn't been approved by the FDA yet. We've got so many new therapies in the pipeline right now. Like I said, we're over 36 new targeted therapies with many more in the pipeline. So some of them, the only way you can get access to them is by being in a clinical trial. And so it's really important to talk to your physician about what clinical trials are available. And it might mean having to change where you get treated in order to have access to that trial, but it could save your life.
Absolutely.
So understanding that and knowing how to get plugged into the right trial and knowing what your biomarker is. Not everybody has a biomarker, and sometimes that feels a little deflating. But there's still, good standard therapies for lung cancer these days. So it's just really important to understand your full diagnosis if you do receive a lung cancer diagnosis.
That is such great advice. We were blessed to be connected to a woman who had been in research for 13 years before becoming an oncologist, or practicing, I should say. She was an oncologist.
Mhm.
And because of that, to your point, but you have to ask and you have to research it. Someone isn't going to necessarily, unless you have an oncologist like that, isn't going to suggest some of that, where ours did, and always gave us the options. And it's very important, again, that advocacy, education, and a Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation, that is a piece of what they do. And being that this is Lung Cancer Awareness Month, if you're someone that's been listening to this and wants to support it, just go to that link and you can donate and find out even more information to that point to support what Teri's just been sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carla.
Yes, you are so welcome. In addition to some of the things we've covered, is there anything else that we haven't that you think is important that our viewers know about A Breath of Hope, lung cancer in general, anything else?
Sure. Well, I'll just share a little bit more about the entire mission of A Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation. So we operate on 3 pillars. So not only do we promote the screening and awareness and education, our pillars are funding research. And in fact, we're getting ready to announce our latest research award because we are funding early investigators or early career investigators, trying to keep them in the lung cancer space so that they will continue to research in this space and drive that translational research that will lead to filling that pipeline with new treatments. So we are funding research. We also provide the education, so public education, which includes the screening and awareness, patient education, so helping people to be advocates and learn about their diagnosis, and then provider education. We set up biannual biomarker summits where we are bringing together oncologists and lung cancer people that work in the lung cancer space, so pulmonology, pathology, nurse navigators, oncologists. We're bringing them together to learn from each other best practices around new lung cancer testing and treatments, because we want to make sure that Minnesota continues to climb in that 5-year survival rate. So we are doing provider education too. And then our third pillar is support. Because once somebody is diagnosed with lung cancer, it's a tough journey, and we want to be there for the patients, for their caregivers, and all the way through survivorship. So we offer things that are as practical as giving rides to treatment. If that's a barrier because you need to go to radiation or chemotherapy multiple days in a row, and your own caregiver network has been exhausted and you need a ride to get to treatment, we've got volunteer drivers that help that in the Twin Cities and Mayo Clinic at the cancer centers where we've got partnerships. We also have peer companionship where you can connect with someone who's been through what you're about to go through on this cancer journey and have an ear and someone to talk to. And we've got lots of other support, including support groups, and then all the way through survivorship. So we've got activity videos on staying physically active. We've got a nutrition app that you can download to help you. Sometimes when you're going through chemotherapy and you are told you need to have more, something, iron or whatever, or protein in your diet, but things aren't just staying down and you need to figure it out. We have an app that is manned by oncology nurses that can help you. And we've got a mindfulness audio companion that you can download that will help with anxiety, and mental health is something that we care deeply about and try to support people. So the support services are there too. And, some of the support is getting involved in being active in a community, whether it's coming out to the walk and feeling like you are part of the community, volunteering yourself, doing things like coming to the gala where you can see that you are not alone, is really important for people to get through that mental health piece of a lung cancer diagnosis. So there's many ways to get involved with A Breath of Hope.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And we know that lung cancer is the deadliest cancer. It is the number one leading cause amongst cancers for death. And although Minnesota, on the national average, has one of a higher survival rate, we've got a long way to
We have
go
a
to
long
get to
way to go.
100%.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Yes.
we do.
So, in order to help us get to that 100%, and if you want to get involved, whether it's a donation or be a part of the run walk or the gala, and we just had both, one in August and we just
Mhm.
had the gala last Friday, but there's many more events. There's many ways to get involved. If you want to just donate, go to the link. Any amount of donation is welcome to help us get to that 100% and to help a Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation be able to be all of those pieces of research, education, and support for patients and families. What else is there, or what other ways can they get involved?
Well, just like we said, coming out and physically being involved, or just signing up for our online support groups.
Mhm.
If you are someone that has been impacted by lung cancer, whether you are, like I said, a caregiver, patient, or survivor, you can sign up for our virtual support groups. They all happen online right now, and they will continue to happen online. But when we move to our new office in January, they'll start being hybrid, so that we'll go back to having in-person support groups too in our new community room. So many ways that people can get involved and stay connected with our organization and other people in the community.
Absolutely. What else haven't we covered that you think that our viewers need to know about this?
Oh gosh, there's so much, Carla, but you know what? I'm just going to tell people to go to our website and look at the resources. You know,
Mhm.
another fantastic resource. I'm going to take you up on that. What else? Because
Good.
we probably don't talk about it enough, but in our education arm of what we do is our uandlungcancer.org webpage. It's an extension,
Mm.
and you can find it on our webpage. You can click through to it. But it
Mhm.
is the Animated Patient's Guide to Lung Cancer. And there are
Mm.
many modules up there. And it's written at an education level to be really in layman's terms. So anyone can go to that website. They can watch the videos, the animations. It's subtitled. You can print out infographics. There's pictorials. Or you can just watch other patient videos or videos
Mm.
from our leading experts
Mhm.
to really understand if you've been diagnosed with lung cancer and you just feel overwhelmed at the doctor's office and you think, oh my gosh, I have no idea what they were using, acronyms and language that I don't understand, and things like EGFR, ALK positive, or KRAS, or
Mhm.
all these different types of biomarkers. What does that mean, and what am I facing, and
Mhm.
how do I prepare for surgery, or just all of these questions that you might have. Go to this animated guide for lung cancer and click through the videos,
Mm.
download the infographics, use them, print it out and use them to ask questions at your next doctor's appointment and say, hey, I saw this online and I've got a question about it, or help me understand this. There's pictures. I mean, it explains
Mm.
like how to prepare for surgery. Just so many questions can be answered. And truly, when people feel like they are participating in their treatment, it's been proven that they adhere to treatment better, and they will have a higher survival rate because they are in line with their physician on their treatment paths. So educating yourself is
Right.
always a good thing. And
Yes.
it's great to go on this website and learn there, where it's really in words and visuals that are easy to understand.
And I know any cancer diagnosis can be overwhelming and frightening, even as myself as a caregiver. And I was a caregiver for 12 years, 8.5 years
Mm.
in the same home to two people. And so I get it, but I don't know what it's like to be a cancer patient, which, knock on wood, I hope I never do. But for those of you who are watching this, it is a personal thing. Many people are private. If you don't feel comfortable private messaging me and you want to be connected directly, feel free to reach out. We'll both be tagged on this. I'll go back in and tag. You can go to their website. Teri Cannon, the executive director, is my special guest. You can speak to her directly, but they have an incredible team of people. It's one of the reasons I like to be a part of this organization, not only in honor of my dad, but they're great people. You feel comfortable around them. So please, do yourself a favor, educate, advocate, support, all of it.
That's right, Carla.
Yeah. So, what else haven't we covered? It's one of the reasons I always ask that question several times because we think of things as we go through the show, especially something like this that's so important.
Oh my gosh, I would have just kicked myself if we would have gotten off this call and I hadn't talked about our animated patient's guide to lung cancer. So thank you for asking what else. Really just go on the website and click through each one of the pages because there is so much information and opportunities to get involved that even if I said it right now, you'll find more when you dig on the website.
Absolutely. I've noticed that. I've gone to your website several times and I always learn something every single time I go there that I maybe missed before.
Well, and it's changing daily too. We continue to update the website with fresh new information. And so there's always something new. No matter how many times you go back, you're going to see something new on A Breath of Hope.
Fantastic. You've got a great team, so I'm not surprised at that. Anything else before we sign off that leave?
Carla, thank you so much for all of the times that you said that it's important to donate, because as we come up into the giving season, this is a very philanthropic time of year. It's Thanksgiving. It's, next week is Give to the Max Day. And this is a time when people are considering what charities do they want to support? Where can I give my resources? And as everyone knows, there's a lot of need out there this year in particular with so many nonprofits, coming up on shortfalls and having funding cut in a variety of different ways. And A Breath of Hope is one of those organizations that is really counting on individuals to be highly generous to us this time of year. And we sure could use the donations. So we appreciate all of the plugs that you've given throughout this broadcast and the link that you've provided, because that's really important to carry out our mission. The donations, they could be restricted to research if that's something that you choose, or you could leave it in the hands of our team to make sure that it's getting to the most appropriate way, whether it's the support or the education or whatever is in the most need for funding. But we certainly appreciate donations, and this is the time to give.
Oh, well, it's very important that we all support the deadliest cancer. The number one leading cause of death is lung cancer. It's Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and so many other cancers get so much visibility and marketing. Let's all come together in a time of Thanksgiving, a time of need. You said it, perfectly. A lot of organizations have had funding and things cut, and they are counting on all of us. So let's all do our part and support this wonderful organization, A Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation. Thank you again, Teri, and I look forward to having you back on in 2026.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And for all of you tuning in, please tune in next week. We've got a show on Tuesday night and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, and we'll be promoting those this weekend. So please tune in and join us twice next week. And if you can't make it, these shows are always embedded. We go out to 8 different places on Facebook, 4 places on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. So we are just grateful for all of your support of all of our favorite featured businesses like A Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation. Thank you again all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thank you again, Teri, and I hope to see you sooner and then later, and we'll connect. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Go to that link, donate. Any amount helps. And we'll see you all next week on Around Town TV right here. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.